So we really are an angry society. And unfortunately, with what's going on around us, we are constantly under stress. There's load shedding, unemployment. The stress is just ongoing. So we're living, on this earth or in this earth in South Africa as people who are on autopilot. We're like soldiers. We're just marching on, trying to survive. We are all in survival mode. And what needs to happen is that we need to sit with the hard stuff, the hard emotions, and actually heal. But healing is a choice. I think that's what makes it tricky. I wanted to actually get people to understand why someone will stay even if they could leave. And also that you can feel trapped even after you leave, which is what happened with me. His voice was haunting me for 8 years, even though I did not want to go back. Right? So I think I was trying to illustrate what psychological or emotional abuse is, what it can do, even if, and no one is immune to it. Even me, the clinical psychologist, was emotionally abused by a psychiatrist, by the way. Psychiatrist in training. So no one is immune to being abused. Also, no one is immune to being an abuser. So we need to really be aware of ourselves. Yes.
Good evening and welcome to Alumni Talk at Tshwane FM 93.6. My name is Nhlawulo, and of course I'm not alone. I'm riding this wave and making sure that we bring you the hardest talk show in the, in the province, right? Or in the world, right? Yeah, it's Pretoria to the world. So I'm giving you the hardest talk. It's Alumni Talk with Nhlawulo and Malesele Hlakudi. We are back to our regular scheduling of Alumni Talk. Since last week we had a different type of show, right? So, Malesele, welcome. It's Human Rights Day, right?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks, and welcome. Right, we are back on and making sure that we give you the best of the best.
Absolutely.
So today it's Human Rights Day, and as Human Rights Days commence, it means that we are focusing on something that relates to Human Rights Day. But let me talk about this based on the biography of the person we're going to interview today. Tonight, we picked up gender-based violence as a human rights violation. The South African Bill of Rights says everyone has the right to life, freedom and security of the person, which includes the right not to be tortured in any way and not to be treated or punished in a cruel or inhuman or degrading way. Yes.
So gender-based violence is a human right violation. It is an unrelenting assault on human dignity, depriving people of their human rights. Freedom from violence is a fundamental human right, and gender-based violence undermines a person's sense of self-worth as well as self-esteem. It affects not only their physical health but also mental health, as it may lead to self-harm, isolation, depression, as well as suicidal attempts.
So big. So in your lifetime, right, since you've been alive, which human right do you feel like somebody violated personally?
I know I'm gonna sound silly, but the freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech.
You know, when you're in class and you feel like talking and then you're told not to.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think I've been through that. Oh, you want to do something and somebody says, no.
Yeah.
Nah, don't. Oh, you want to sing and someone says, don't sing.
Oh, you're too loud. You gave me.
So, like I said earlier, we're back to our regular scheduling of Alumni Talk. Last week, we had the honors in this show of doing this show at the TB Hall at Tshwane University of Technology during the installation of the new Chancellor of Council, Dr. Gloria Tometa Serove. Tonight, we are joined by Dr. Keitumetse Tumi Mashego, who is a clinical sports and psychologist, PhD, MBA, MSc, BSc Honors, BSc Psychology and Human Physiology, practicing as an independent registered practitioner since 2006. We are talking about 18 years worth of experience, Malesele.
She's also an author of a memoir called Trapped in Love, Luxurious. I'm talking about her own personal journey to overcome emotional abuse. We are not going to only focus on the luxurious career that she has, but we'll also touch base on gender-based violence and how to address in the institution of higher learning, and we'll wrap it up with the conversation on mental health.
Now, with that said, do find us on social media. We are Tshwane FM 93.6 across all social media platforms. Nhlawulo, it's on X and Facebook. Or you can find us on TT Alumni with the hashtag Alumni Talk. Alternatively, send us a WhatsApp on 01238249936. Right now, we get into my favorite part. We're going to follow alumni success stories. like it's Alumni Talk at Tshwane FM 93.6. Last week we stole people's time. Today we don't have the luxury of time. So like we mentioned earlier, we are joined tonight by Dr. Keitumetse Tumi Mashego. She's a clinical and sports psychologist. I've mentioned her expensive or luxurious biography. She has done a lot of things. We've seen her on TV. We've seen her on social media doing a lot of amazing things. So she's also an author, like we mentioned, of a memoir titled Trapped in Love, about her own personal journey to overcome emotional abuse. Furthermore, is a performance and mindset life coach, tailor-making interventions that focus on individuals and teams of all levels in various organizations. Additionally, for athletes, competitive, elite, professional, and social individual teams, families, and management of all sporting codes. I can go on and on. I can go on and on, but I think the best thing to do is to let you do the talking. Welcome, Dr. Tumi.
Thank you so much for having me. Good evening to everyone.
We've been looking forward to this conversation. I think we were supposed to have this conversation last year.
Yes.
Not last year, last week rather. And you were like, no, it's fine. Let's have this conversation on the 21st. It's Human Rights Day. And it's supposed to be a holiday, but there's no holiday for you.
Yeah.
So such an impressive biography. Where did it all start?
Sure. When I was 4, I started school when I was 4 years old, and I haven't stopped ever since. So I started school at 4, matriculated at 16. I was probably one of the youngest clinical psychologists to qualify, because I qualified at the age of 23 in 2005. And I became an independent practitioner in 2006, as you mentioned, and I've been at the serving as a clinical and sports psychologist since then.
Wow.
Yes.
And what encouraged you to keep going? I mean, there's so many titles, so many qualifications as well. Yeah. So what encouraged you?
You know, I come from a family of 2 professors. My mother is a professor in clinical psychology. And disclaimer, she did not force me to do this work. And my father is a professor in zoology. My father got his PhD in 1982. So he's been Dr. Mashego or Prof. Mashego since forever. Wow. And, you know, what they said to us, and I've got 2 brothers, what they said to us as the children, they said the only thing they know is education. And that's what they will, you know, give us. And they did give us, because my older brother is a medical specialist in anesthesiology. And then it's myself. And I've got a younger brother who's a chemical engineer who's got also an MBA. So, yeah, we are nerds, but we've got social skills. We can party as well. Yeah. But we are essentially nerds at heart.
Yeah.
Yes.
Malesele, do you have younger siblings?
No.
You don't have younger siblings? I actually do. I think I need to lead by example, because what I'm hearing from the Keitumetse here, there's a lot of things that she's doing.
Yes.
Such amazing things. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about your experience studying towards your MBA at the Tshwane Business School.
So when I finished my Masters of Science in Clinical Psychology, I worked in private practice, and then I realized that, you know, as much as I don't do the books myself, as in, you know, the bookkeeping for my practice, I realized I actually do not have the knowledge. So I decided, because I always want to know, not that I would do it myself, but when they give me an income statement, to actually understand what it's about. So then that's when I started the journey to do the MBA, because I am a nerd. I feel like I'm not street smart. I learned through books. So I decided to then, you know, take up the MBAs just to have more knowledge in terms of, you know, understanding holistically my business, so that I can, you know, it can be profitable, but also that I can also, you know, understand when they give me books what is in there.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because I think what I wanted to find out when I saw MBA, right, I thought about your business itself.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, okay, we're going to get to the business. But did she study MBA so that she can, you know, enhance her skills to run, it's Riba 1, right?
Riba one, it's
Riba
Tswana.
on.
Yeah, Riba one. It's Tswana.
My goodness.
Riba one.
My
It
goodness,
means we are his.
Yeah. And how has, you know, that, you know, experience of running it through maybe some of the, you know, skills you got from, you know, studying MBA at the Tshwane University, at the Tshwane Business School, which is also under TUT here?
Yes, yes. So it helped me to. When I started Riba One, it's because I was diversifying. I didn't just want to specialize in seeing patients or clients one on one. I wanted to do different things, So I really diversified. So remember, I qualified very early, and I think I burnt out. I don't think I burnt out very early in the career. So then that's when I decided to diversify and do a lot of things, such as employee wellness interventions, workshop facilitation. I also have lectured. So the projects that come through Riba One Wellness help me to sort of tap into the wellness space, but also, organizational development, OD, and also change management, which is some of the things that we did, the courses we did in the MBA.
Yeah.
Yes.
You talk about qualifying when you were still young.
Yes.
How old were you when you got your first qualification?
When I got my first master's, which is the MSc in Clinical Psychology, I was 23. Yes. I was probably one of the youngest clinical psychologists. There was no Twitter hashtag training. That's also how long ago it was.
Wake up, Mr.
I know.
You know why I'm laughing, though?
Yes.
I was 23 when I finished my first qualification.
But no,
I was 23, yeah.
Yeah. But no pressure to everyone. Remember, I started school, I was 4 turning 5.
I started school, I was 4 turning 5.
But life happens, right? We also on
yeah.
different journeys. And I think for me, I feel I had to go through what I went through so that I can live my purpose, which is being a clinical and sports psychologist, and to have all the life experiences I had so that I can give back. Because I feel like I'm very sure that I was born to do what it is I am doing, which is I'm very blessed to be in that space to do what it is I'm born to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's 17 minutes after the hour 6. It's Alumni Talk at Tshwane FM 93.6. My name is Hlakudi, and I'm not alone, of course, with Malesele Hlakudi. And today we are joined by such an inspirational human being. We're talking about Dr. Keitumetse Mashego. And she's telling us about her experience and how she's running her business as well, and some of her educational journeys as well. Let's talk about, you mentioned, you gave us a background about your family as well.
Yes.
How educated they are, especially starting from the parents. How, growing up in such, a family that has people who are, educated, with full of knowledge as well. How has that helped you to keep on, pushing yourself as well to do something for yourself?
I think it's because we grew up in it. For a while, I didn't know that a red gown was not. It meant a PhD until I actually, grew up, because my father, as I said, got his PhD in 1982. He was one of the first black scientists in South Africa, zoologist. So it has always been our life, and as I said, my parents, that's the thing they said, this is what we know and this is what we will give you. And their journeys are always so inspirational to hear. So I think for me, even though I don't think me and my mom, as much as we both clinical psychologists, we're so different. I can be very impatient. It took me a while to get into, understanding. She actually lectured me for one module. Apparently, yes. Apparently, when it was, I don't recall, she says, when it was time, like when class ended at 6, I wanted to pack up and go at 6. Like, Mom, we're done. Why are you still carrying on over 6, So, but honestly speaking, the support was always, we are blessed. They are my living testimony here on this earth, because even when I remember there was a module I had to repeat, my mom knew the deans and she knew that I had a sub before I knew I had a sub. She knew what I needed to study before I knew. I don't even know how she did it, but that's the support she gave us. She made sure that,
she's on top of her game.
We didn't have a choice to actually be there. And, some of the moments where we wanted to quit, she's very gentle in her approach. And even my dad is always there by her side. And they would always, hear our story when we're complaining, but also sort of push us back to doing that academic thing. Yes.
Now, you're also a performance and life coach.
Yes.
How did that come about?
So I've always been an athlete. So when I was young, I did the 100 and the 200 meters. And remember, I was always 2 years younger than my people or my classmates.
Yeah.
So when I got to standard 8, I'm showing my age now, grade 10. When I got to grade 10, I remember my coach, I had my late coach, Mr. Lekonyo, he was great. You know, he said to me, Dame, there's someone who's running a split second. So there was a grade 8 pupil who came into the school and they were running a split second faster than me in the 100 and the 200. He said to me, when we do provincial things, we only can have one athlete. So I'm going to take you and train you how to become a 400-meter athlete. So for anyone who doesn't know, the 400 meter is one of the one of the worst. It's a mind race, that race. I don't know how people do it with hurdles. But anyway, and I'm not the typical 400 meter sprinter because I'm a typical one and two. So I'm very muscular and, you know, I'm a bit short. I'm not that tall. And usually the 400 meters are more lean and, you know, they've got a different, but he pushed me and I believed in myself and we pushed that. And I actually was doing well in it. And then in 1998, I ran and I broke the record. Yes, in the provincial record in 1998 in the Limpopo province. And I was also playing netball for the province. And, you know, because I'm short, I'm also not a typical netball player. But I was great. I jumped like a springbok. I can jump very high. Yes, I was really defining the answer. I was in the provincial team as a center. And at the same day, I broke that record February of 1998. I remember I ran because I wasn't scheduled to run the 2 and the 1. I had broken my record. I was waiting for relay. I remember he said just before the 200 meter, as if they're already there on the track, he says to me, Tumi, the other lady doesn't want to run. Run to the start and do the 200. So I sprinted across, and when I got, they said, take your marks. Sure. I ran, I broke the record.
Congratulations.
For the 200. And then I broke, and then later he comes and he says, she doesn't want to run the 100. Go. Then I ran, then I broke the record. So that day I broke 3 records, the 1, the 2, and the 4, which has been standing for quite a while in the Limpopo province. And then I also was the netball player. So that race, so literally when I was, 14 in grade 10, I think that's when I learned about the mind. Because that race, it doesn't matter how fit you are.
It needs the mind.
Yeah, the mind must carry you because at some point your body says stop it, your lungs say stop it. So that's when I actually learned unaware that, you know, that's how I started my purpose into work of the mind. So that's how I started my journey. And I wanted to be a sports psychologist, but in South Africa, there's no masters for that. So I don't actually know. I never thought of going out of the country, but I guess it was what my journey was supposed to be. So then I did a master's in clinical psychology, and then I did a lot of work around, like certificates around sports psychology. So then I'm a clinical and sports psychologist.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Has your record been broken since?
You know, I must actually look. For me, it's like my truth. I broke this record. When people ask me, what makes you a great sports psychologist or, you know, someone who works with performance? I'm like, you know, I broke a record in 1998.
Yes.
It's 3 records. Like, that's my story, my truth.
I think it would be interesting, you know, to know if your record has been broken since, right? I'd love to know that.
I will check. I will check.
Yeah, it needs to be checked. You combine your clinical sports psychology knowledge with experiential work, focusing on mastering former competitive, focusing on the mind and healing, spending over 18 years, life lessons learned, and your incredible experience of something that you've already mentioned about being an athlete. Right? I just, you know, I wanted to find out so bad during the course of the week which province it was, and right now I'm like finding out it's Limpopo. I was even thinking Gauteng, I was thinking Northwest. I don't know where my mind was going. But you also work with PSL Football Club, club teams. Some are based internationally. Tell us about that experience itself.
So I work with athletes, different sporting codes. So, you know, because of the mind influences, you know, athletes in all sporting codes. Tennis, I work with water polo athletes, soccer, football, for women, men's teams, and also the technical staff and the support staff and their families. So it's not just about the athlete, because the athlete is a person, they're holistic, they're human beings. So it's really about the team, but also because I also focus on creating high-performing teams.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not just in athletes; it's also in organizations, because we do get teams that work together that need to function to perform and be productive in organizations. So I take what I use with athletes in organizations as well. Yeah, so it's a human being is a human being, whether they're an athlete or whether they are in an organization. That's my view, because everyone has a mind, and we need to really master the mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's exactly 25 minutes after the hour 6. It's Alumni Talk at Tshwane FM 93.6. Nhlawulo David in conversation with Dr. Keitumetse Mashego and Malesele. Sorry, I don't know. I'm like...
You're seeing doctor now.
No. You know what happened right there? I was thinking about what's happened Malesele, because she's dealing with, she's working with PSR people, right? And that was the time where football was interesting to me, for the special South African football.
Yeah.
So please give me one there, yeah. But I think, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Malesele and it's like, okay, she wants to talk about Dr. Keitumetse Mashego's business. And I don't know, she's heated. Why are you heated?
I'm not heated.
No, you can get to it. I think that we got a lot, and then and I'm just sitting there, I'm just okay, her business since 2006. Malesele has everything. I'm just sitting here looking at her, I'm just okay, tell us.
So you run a part-time practice since 2006.
That's correct.
And you're also the founder of Rebaone. Yes.
Wellness, yes.
Where you offer different services to NGOs, SMEs, and also private organizations, to name a few. Why is this a part-time practice, though? What are you doing when you're not doing this?
So I do other work. As I said, I qualified very early.
Yeah.
So I think from the onset, I concluded that I need to diversify.
Yeah.
I need to do anything and everything to ensure that I remain in this field. Because one thing about burnout, my experience of it and what I've seen out there, because my PhD is actually on burnout in medical doctors, the young ones, the Generation Y. So I've noticed that when you burn out, you almost do not want to remain in the field because you are so exhausted, you have nothing left to give. So when I qualified, I burnt out and I really felt like I don't want to do this anymore. But I knew that it was just a burnout. It wasn't because of, the reality. So then when I saw ways of me to cope was that I need to diversify. Yeah. So I've done a lot of things. I've done industrial organizational assessment. I've mastered that. I've done also, as I said, working with athletes, but also I profile. I do a lot of profiling psychology, and I also do I do many things basically, and lecturing as well, undergrad, postgrad. So I do a lot of things, and also because of the book Trapped in Love, I do a lot of workshop facilitations. I'm a speaker for different platforms for women and on other social issues. So not just women, right? For men, the youth, on topics like suicide, gambling, addiction, depression, gender-based violence. So I really diversified my portfolio to ensure I remain doing what it is I'm destined to do, which is what I'm doing.
I would like us to continue talking about Rebaone, and but I want to ask you something.
Yes.
What is the importance of diversifying as in your career, not just focusing on one thing?
I think it's really just, remember, my work is emotions. I'm an emotional labor. So you need to ensure, it's not necessarily that you should diversify, but I think it's more about self-care and self-awareness. You need to be aware of yourself so that you are not projecting onto your clients, so that you're always present with them. So I do a lot of things. So for example, I've diversified, but also as part of my self-care, I debrief with my clinical psychologist monthly, sometimes twice a month because of my own personal issues. But I also run. I do a lot of social running to ensure I keep fit. I do a lot of sporting activities as well, just to ensure that I'm able to shut down. So in our fields, it's very important to be self-aware and not in denial when you are struggling or overwhelmed, by the type of work that we do. So for me, diversifying was one of the ways to ensure that I remain in the field, productive, and also that my clients benefit because they come first. A
couple of years ago, let's say maybe 2 or 3 years ago, the world was really hit by a virus called COVID-19, right?
Definitely.
And your business has been, on since 2006. It's been over 18 years. How did you manage to keep your business running during that difficult time? And I also want to understand, what are some of the core principles that you use to ensure that your business ran regardless of the pandemic? Yeah.
With the pandemic, it was the world was in a crisis.
Yeah.
And what helped my business is that now the online or virtual sessions were introduced. So now then I sort of focused on that as well. So I could do sessions even if I didn't necessarily have face-to-face. And you remember there's South Africans who are outside the country. So word spread about, virtual sessions and also about my work online. So I've got South Africans who are based outside in China, Hong Kong, who then requested my services. Remember, at that time, some couldn't come home. Yeah. So they were struggling with, and some lost family members. Yeah. So then, obviously, I was able to offer those sessions. And I still also, because I was a healthcare professional, I was still able to do some of the work. Yeah. Because, yes, it was mental health then became very important, especially in that time. But mostly it was the virtual sessions and, the group work and, supporting the people who are going through a lot. Yeah. Yes.
You have so many titles, eh? So I want to know, you're an author of the memo titled Trapped in Love.
Yes.
Where you talk about your emotional abuse.
Yes.
When was this memo published and how hard was it to pen your experience to a book?
So the situation or the experience of the emotional abuse was actually when I was doing my master's, my first master's in clinical psychology when I qualified. That was in 2005. Okay. The relationship was 12 months long, but the trauma lasted 8 years. Sure. And when I left after 12 months, I then penned down the experience because, with emotional abuse, sometimes you feel like you are imagining some of the things. Yeah, you feel like you're going a little bit crazy. So I wrote down the experience because I felt, I need to document what is happening. I remember it was like 32 pages, of typed A4. And but then I also felt it didn't have an ending, right? So I didn't publish it. I wrote it and I parked it. Yeah. Yes, but I believe in retrospect that it's because I wasn't healed. I hadn't gone through the process. So it's only 8 years later when I sat with myself in 2013 in February on my birthday that I decided that, I'm not okay because I had internalized such a negative view of myself. Remember, abusers really pick on something in you, and if you internalize that, I was on autopilot for 8 years. Yeah. And when I decided to actually do the work to overcome, right, I did that. And I guess also in life, people sometimes want tangible things to show that you've healed. Yeah. And I only published it in 2019, immediately, actually, when I got my PhD. Yeah. Yes, that's when I published the book. So then there were tangible things to show that I had actually moved from the place that was hurting. But I knew also that in writing the book, I didn't want to just share my story. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. I wanted to actually get people to understand why someone will stay, even if they could leave. And also that you can feel trapped even after you leave, which is what happened with me. His voice was haunting me for 8 years, even though I did not want to go back. Right. So I think I was trying to illustrate what psychological or emotional abuse is, what it can do, even if, and no one is immune to it. Even me, the clinical psychologist, was emotionally abused by a psychiatrist, by the way. Wow. Psychiatrist in training. Wow. So no one is immune to being abused. Also, no one is immune to being an abuser. Yeah. So we need to really be aware of ourselves. Yeah. Yes.
Now, still on the emotional abuse.
Yes.
I believe that when you've been in that kind of a situation, you always have the urge to go back to that same person who broke you because they tell you things and you end up believing them.
I think it's when you haven't healed, right? And also I emphasize in the book that for one to heal, you need to choose to heal. So leaving was the first step. Yeah. And remember, I said I was on autopilot because I hadn't healed, right? So, and if you don't heal, then you're at risk to go back or to go into other abusive relationships. So you need to ensure that that you heal, you do the work, but it's a choice. So you leave, then you need to heal so that you can thrive. So you leave, you survive, then you do the work to ensure that you heal and survive. And also remember, abusers pick on something that you were already struggling with. Remember, I said I was a clinical psychologist at a young age, and many people were questioning whether I'll do it, even though, I had great parents who were supportive. Many people were wondering about that. So he picked on that a lot. He said, I will amount to nothing, as a clinical psychologist, right? So he really dug deep. And remember, they thrive on whatever it is you're struggling with. So when he got a reaction from that, he went in deep because misery loves company. So until I decided, you know what, I need to sit with this and ask and understand what my purpose is. And I really honestly, now if you tell me I'm a horrible psychologist, I'm able to say, oh, well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you. Let me give you a list, Sisa, or whatever has other psychologists. Good luck. But in that time, I was not able to be who I am now. So even, in going through what I went through, I'm of view that I had to become the face of hope and healing for psychological abuse. So people can actually not only gain healing, but understand from not just a place of my education, but from my experience.
Yes. That's very touching, story, and we are learning a lot. But I also wanted to understand this. How difficult is it for one to see if they are being emotionally abused, and how can one deal with emotional abuse?
Abusers are about control and power, and they destroy. Their aim is to destroy you so that you almost are dependent on them, or you feel trapped, or you feel you can't leave, you feel unworthy. They go deep and they destroy you at the core of your soul. So you need to understand that. And they also pick on whatever it is maybe you're already struggling with. For example, if it's weight, then they will go in and, talk about your weight. Ooh, today, why are you so? And if they get a reaction, they feed off of that and they go deep. Sometimes they bring in other things just to destroy you. So I think it's the incoherent messages also, the incongruent messages, sorry. I love you, but I hate you. I love you, but you're ugly. I hit you, then I bring you flowers. So half the time you are confused. You spend your, the relationship or the interaction so confused and unaware. But, I think it's always about self-awareness. If you feel like you are really drowning, I always recommend to people, please find help. A clinical psychologist, and we are available in the public sector as well, at no cost. So you might have a longer waiting period, but we are available so that you can do the work. And remember, abusers are also they're projecting their pain, and it's not to excuse their behavior. So, they just hurt people, and hurt people hurt other people. So they literally are in that space, consumed by their own hurt. But also the victim, or the person who unfortunately is, exposed to such abuse, they need to also heal, because also hurt people, like the victim can hurt other people, even if they were unfairly hurt. Trauma is never our fault, but the healing is always our responsibility, which is what sucks about trauma and pain. You might have been, in an unfair situation, but it's always your responsibility to ensure that you heal.
Now, your academic research has covered several topics, including coping strategies of African mothers of children with behavioral problems. Why African mothers specifically?
I was looking to see whether because, with Africans, we sort of traditionally, we've got more support in terms of how we raise children or families back then anyway. But what the study actually found is that because of the westernization of the African mother, they actually don't have support. Right, in raising their children. So I was looking at the support structure that African mothers have, but it's actually not different to the Western mothers nowadays. So that traditional African Ubuntu system that worked before, that could help mothers who are having children with behavioral problems, is just not there anymore. It's non-existent, and that was what sparked the interest. Yes.
It's exactly 22 minutes before the hour 7. It's Alumni Talk at Tshwane FM 93.6. Let's go to the market. Are you a TET alumni with a story to tell that will inspire a fellow alumni or students? Feel free to share with us your story. We could feature you on social media platforms, TET website, or our Beat newsletter, magazine, or Alumni Talk. Tell us about your career, the great things that you've accomplished since graduating at TET, or the technical that you attended before the major. If you've published a book, started a business, or invented a product, we want to know all about it and how TET help you to get there. Submit your story of 250 words or less, along with a high-resolution photo, to alumni@tut.ac.za. Don't forget to add the following information: your name, surname, graduation year, degree or diploma, cell phone number, or email address.
According to Cielo South Africa, institutions of higher learning have continued to record high cases of gender-based violence, despite efforts to put in place to fight the vice. The most common forms of GBV are physical, sexual assault, and psychological violence. Women and girls make up the majority of the GBV victims worldwide.
Wow. Experts say gender-based violence at higher education institutions is an ongoing issue that urgently needs to be addressed. Talking about higher education institutions, they say over 200 million students. Statistics show that sexual violence is a major problem in campuses, with 20 to 25% of women reporting sexual abuse in universities. According to News 24, experts say that there was not enough attention given to addressing gender-based violence and sexual violence on campuses amid ongoing femicide and rape of students. So, Doc, we've been profiling your luxurious career with an impressive biography. I don't know how long it is, but yeah, it's really long. But I want us to get to this now. It's exactly 19 minutes before the hour 7. It's Alumni Talk with Nhlawulo and Malesele Hlakudi, and we're in conversation, of course, with Dr. Keitumetse Mashego. Like, I want to put the other name inside. Dr. Keitumetse Tumi Mashego. What could be the contributing factor to gender-based violence in tertiary institutions?
We are living in a wounded society. Human beings are wounded, and we are not dealing with what it is, what that we need to deal with. We are generations are passing on the wounds onto other generations, and there's a lot of defensiveness in terms of people really sitting with what it is they are struggling with. So we are living in a wounded society, and GBV is just one of the ways in which we can see the manifestation of the level of woundedness that we are in, basically. So we are living in that, and unfortunately, there's people, human beings, we don't want to seek help. We always think we're strong. Unfortunately, when we are traumatized, even if from childhood or past relationships, if we do not deal with those things, they just sit there and they fester and they manifest as abusive behavior sometimes. And we learn abusive behavior from our parents, friends, it becomes the norm. And especially where, for example, men are not given the outlets, to deal, or they're not supported to deal with the traumas they go through. But it's equally so for women as well. Not all women actually have the courage to come and seek help. Yes.
What are some of the strategies that leaders of higher education sectors implement to deal with the stigma of GBV?
I think we firstly need to talk about the stigma of seeking help and embracing that no one is perfect, that whatever it is that we're going through, we need to sit. So we need to really be seeing clinical psychologists, all of us, because we are carrying so much. So I think the awareness that we carry so much, and what it is we are carrying, just because we're not sitting with it doesn't make it go away. So we really need to heal ourselves and become more self-aware, and then be aware that, and healing that, then we will not project the behavior that is similar, or that, it leads to GBV. So we really are an angry society, and unfortunately, with what's going on around us, we are constantly under stress. There's load shedding, unemployment. The stress is just ongoing. So we're living, on this earth, or in this earth, in South Africa, as people who are on autopilot. We're like soldiers. We're just marching on, trying to survive. We are all in survival mode. And what needs to happen is that we need to sit with the hard stuff, the hard emotions, and actually heal. But healing is a choice. I think that's what makes it tricky.
Wow. And do you think gender norms and stereotypes contribute to gender-based violence?
Oh, definitely. And I think because with our evolving humanity, we don't actually have conversations that we need to have. And what tends to happen is that we become extreme. So, for example, there's a stereotype that women must do this or men must do this. But because we're evolving, we don't actually have conversations about those stereotypes and expectations we have on human beings, of different genders. And therefore, we just want to, then we get angry or we judge, or we become so extreme that because now I don't want to be seen as a woman who is expected to cook, then now I'm on the other extreme where now I'm hardcore and I want to be like the male counterparts. And I always say, as a woman, you are still feminine. It's okay to be who you are. You are born to be. You can be whatever it is you want to be. You don't need to compete with a man. You don't need to be mbokoto. You can be kind and gentle and sweet, and yes, it's okay to be independent, but also you don't have to be hardcore. You don't have to be a man. You can just be a woman who's thriving and doing great things.
Yeah.
Yes.
So according to Council of Europe, children raised in families where a woman is abused are also victims of the violence, sometimes not physically, but always psychologically. The children witness violence and may form the impression that such behavior is justified or normal. In other words, they assimilate violent norms. Yes. They also brought up in a culture of violence that may negatively affect their self-development and also their ability to function in society. Gender-based violence affects family members, friends, and colleagues. How can GBV be addressed in a household?
So in the household, yes, children learn that behavior. And what happens is then they tolerate, for example, the abuse in their adult relationships, or they become the abuser. Yeah. So just from watching what it is that's happening at home. Yeah. Or they can become so anxiety or just have severe pathology, anxiety, depression, or, other severe pathology because of watching the abuse that happens. And also maybe they can feel that the other parent, or they can feel abandoned in that the other parent did not protect them. For example, if they were also being abused and the other parent knew and did nothing. So I think children will be impacted, and sometimes we think children are not aware, or they won't be, or they'll survive. But actually, people as adults are dealing with the childhood traumas that they experienced. So it becomes very important to be aware that whatever is happening in the household, that the child will be impacted. Yes.
It's exactly 30 minutes before the hour, before the hour 7 rather. It's Alumni Talk at Tshwane FM 93.6 with myself, Nhlawulo, and the one and only Malesele Hlakudi. We are in conversation with Dr. Keitumetse. If you want to join the conversation via our social network, it's Tshwane FM 93.6 and Nhlawulo across all social media platforms, actually across Facebook and X rather. Not available in the rest. And you can also find us on WhatsApp. Send us a voice note if you do like to, send us that thing. There's a couple of things that you can, get from sending that voice note to us. I think you've heard about it, the O-Sheep as well. So do send us a voice note on 01238249936. And Doc, I want to understand this. For kids, we're talking about those kids as well who grew up in an abusive home. They are victims themselves. Yes. So how can they get help?
Sadly, with kids, we need the adults' consent for them to get help. Yeah. So but of course, if they are adults and they find themselves struggling, which is what happens. You find an adult struggling with what happened to them when they were children. I would recommend that they do the work. It's not going to be easy, but it's possible. And also not doing the work doesn't mean you're going to be okay automatically. So there's no automatic healing when it comes to psychological trauma. You need to sit with that pain and let it transcend so that you can come out the other side. But human beings usually do not want to go there. They don't want to sit with that pain. They don't want to go to that place. They become very defensive. And they sometimes with the work I've been doing, I noticed that human beings feel like if I go there, I will not be able to come out of it. But as an adult, you do have the capacity to sit with those hard emotions. And when you have a professional you're walking with, it becomes easier. So I always encourage, my clients that do the work. It's going to be hard. It's going to be painful because now we are removing Band-Aids that we just put on. And, the wound below is probably infected. So we're going to be cleaning that wound, but we're ensuring that that scar does not bleed anymore, which is the goal. So it is possible. it will be painful. It takes courage, but it is possible to heal and come out the other side and thrive in spite of what happened to you as a child.
Now, talking about doing the work, you are a very passionate sports psychologist.
Yes.
What are the common challenges that you often face in that field?
You know, with sports psychology, there's a lot of, what can we say? Because in South Africa specifically, it's not a category of registration. So, for example, you get your clinicals, you get your counseling, psychologist, industrial, etc., educational. So with that, it's not there. So I'm of view that people call themselves sports psychologists, but they actually do not have a background in psychology. So they tend to just hype the athletes. So it's almost like, do this, yes you can, yes. But I'm always of view that if someone has anxiety, for example, and they are an athlete performing, we need to go to the root cause. And who can do that but a clinical psychologist? So I come, for example, with that holistic ability to uproot it at the root cause, and also to ensure that when the athlete is done, you know, in their career, because it comes to an end, because it's short-lived, that they're still able to function as human beings. So when I give the work, when I do the work with athletes, I ensure to give it a holistic approach. We go to the root cause, we help them perform, but we also help them with life after being an athlete, so that they can still thrive and survive and live.
Wow, that's it's a mouthful. If it was some other information about something else, I think I was saying to Malesele somewhere during the course of the week, we went out and then we were doing some work related to this particular show, and then she was sitting there and was like, why you look like you are exhausted? She's like, nah, there was just too much to take. I was like, no, you've bitten more than you can chew. And right now, I won't say that. We need that. We need to know such information. So let's move, into mental health, right?
Yes,
so we are just left with about 9 minutes before the end of the show.
Okay.
In 2022,
Yes.
Verse released a study revealing that South Africans suffer a higher rate of probable depression and anxiety than any other country. However, only a quarter of these received treatment.
Yes.
Complex factors are contributors. Mental health woes are an endemic in South Africa, with adverse childhood experiences, socio-economic status, like you mentioned earlier, geographic location, age, marital status, education levels, impacting the prevalence of mental illness. So, Dr. Tumi, you have so many titles, and now we're bringing you into this. Why are people not getting help?
There is so much stigma with seeking help, because when you talk about clinical psychologists, people, or psychiatrists, or seeking mental health help, people, they intend to say, I'm not crazy. I can do this. I must snap out of it. And the message that I always put across is some people are more predisposed to mental health challenges than others. The same way someone is predisposed to cancer, even if they were healthy or they ate healthy all their lives, they might have a predisposition for it, which is genetic sometimes. And the same way you can have someone struggle with cholesterol or diabetes. So we need to really continue to curb that stigma. And it's not just social stigma or people judging you, it's also the self-judgment, self-stigma. People judge themselves for not being able to snap out of it. But remember, with psychopathology, sometimes the brain chemistry is involved, meaning that something happened in the brain, neurotransmitters, hence you need, medication. And in some cases it's for life, long-term, depending on the diagnosis, but some it's short-lived, depending on the context or the case. So I think we really need to really get people to understand that the mind is so powerful. We take care of our bodies and how we look, but we tend to forget or neglect the mind. And yet the mind is the most powerful thing that will carry you even when your body struggles.
Now, as if you have mentioned, it's quite hard for people to just go out there and start seeking professional help.
Definitely.
Especially with the background that one might have of people not believing in this and this mental illnesses and sort of.
Yes.
What can they do? How important is it for them to go out and seek professional help?
Definitely, and there is help available, and the sooner obviously they're in the likelihood of the prognosis being good, but some conditions, just in terms of how they are, the prognosis can be poor depending on the context. I mean, when we talk about your severe personality disorders, for example, the prognosis can be poor. But really, honestly speaking, when you see that you are struggling or you be doing the work and you can see that you're not yourself or you're more withdrawn, or sometimes it goes the other way where you're usually quiet but now you are the life of the party, so meaning you could be overcompensating for something. Do seek the help so that you can be okay. You are stuck with yourself for the rest of your life. You might as well ensure that you are in good condition.
Wow. Mental health is not only triggered by, maybe things that you've gone through, like in your personal life, maybe at home or something. It's something that can also happen at a workplace.
Yes.
According to IPASA, conservative research based on estimates show that as many as 1/4 of South African employees will be diagnosed with depression during their employment. However, only between 15% to 25% will seek and receive help. Mental disorders result in massive amounts of lost productivity each year, and it is estimated that employee absenteeism on account of depression costs the South African economy approximately 19 billion annually. How do organizations start creating? How can organizations start creating a workplace that puts a priority on emotional well-being of employees?
I think the stigma also spreads into, organizations where we feel like you are hired, therefore you must just deliver. We've got that, you must just snap out of it. You cannot be, we've got those type of toxic organizations. But I think it's really important to understand that we need to make sure that employees are in a space where mentally they're able to deliver, right? And I think that's where then your employee assistance programs or just support, because sometimes the EAP programs, are limited in what they can do because the employees don't trust them, right? Because it's in-house. So I think really we need to ensure that organizations cater for the mind or the mental needs of the employees in order for sustainability and for productivity in that. But you can imagine if you've got a toxic manager or a toxic business owner who is unable to think like that, it becomes very difficult for them to be flexible. I think we always really need to emphasize that, everywhere we go, there is our mind. And if it's unhealthy, likelihood is we're not going to be productive. So we need to really enforce it to ensure that people are doing the work so they can thrive.
Do you think these numbers are likely to drop anytime soon?
At the rate it's going, not really, because I think we're seeing more and more people. I mean, I think we will see. Time will tell. But there are organizations where you are seeing a lot of people really putting in mental health support or becoming more aware. All right. But it's just not enough organizations. It's just not enough people doing, putting that as a priority in organizations. It's not enough, but there are instances where, there are cases where we see that mental health is prioritized in organizations, which is good.
Wow. Dr. Keitumetse, such an honor to have you.
Thank you so much.
Grace us with your presence here at Alumni Talk. We've had such an amazing time spending with you, and we've learned a lot, been inspired.
Yeah.
But we also want to know, for our listeners who would like to follow you, maybe they seek professional help, how can they find you?
Well, my website is www.rebaone. Reba1 is REBAONE WELLNESS.com, or I'm at my WhatsApp line is 082-858-7033. That's 082-858-7033, my WhatsApp line. And on social media, I'm at Dr. Tumi_DSM on Instagram and on Twitter. And Facebook, I am Tumi Mashego. Yes, and LinkedIn, Dr. Keitumetse Tumi Mashego.
Why isn't the dog on Facebook?
I don't know, actually.
I think if I were to become a doctor, every social media platform now,
even on WhatsApp.
Even on WhatsApp. We'll say, doctor, we have it.
Yes, but please can I have full message is not just hi.
Yeah,
Or, or hey.
The hi is not there. Yeah. It's exactly a minute before the hour 7. We are making way for the one and only Hlakudi and Pro Day on Pitori Original Thursday. The time is exactly a minute, and it's been a great pleasure and honor of coming here to give you Alumni Talk at Tshwane FM 93.6. My name is Nhlawulo, and it's Malesele Hlakudi with me. We are back next week, same time, same place. We are bringing you something fresh each and every week, engaging on those conversations that are yet to be had while shaping you and inspiring you. Thank you and good night.